Hello, my name's Sonny Brasfield, and I'm Executive Director of the Association of County Commissions of Alabama. And I'd like to welcome you to our discussion of the unintended consequences of Alabama's 2015 prison reform effort. That legislation in the past 5 years has had a direct impact on local taxpayers who fund the sheriff's departments and county jails. And we hope in the next few minutes that we can give you some information that will put that issue in better context and that will hopefully allow you to join us in our efforts to try to correct some of the unintended consequences. The 2015 prison reform effort passed by the Alabama legislature was intended to reduce overcrowding in the facilities that are operated by the Department of Corrections. The centerpiece of that expansion was an effort to use county jails and local programs to provide services to inmates that would normally be housed in the Department of Correction facilities. That process has gotten off track a bit in our view, and it has been very costly for the local taxpayers. One of the outcomes of the prison reform has been a sharp decline in the Department of Corrections prison inmate population. Let's look at those outcomes first. The Department of Corrections in 2015 was housing about 25,000 inmates. According to the department's own figures, by the fiscal year 2018, there had been a sharp decline and only 20,000 inmates were being housed in the Department of Corrections custody. The average cost of housing an inmate is about $22,000, according to the department's reports. So that means there's been a savings of over $110 million to the Department of Corrections during the last 5 years. However, the department's budget has not been reduced at all. In fact, it has increased by 15% over the last 5 years. So their prison inmate population has gone down and their budget has been increased. What that means at the local level is that those inmates have been shifted to the county jails. This chart shows graphically that in 2014, according to the Department of Corrections' own data, there were about 2,000 state inmates housed in county jails. In fiscal year 2018, that number soared to almost 8,000. This is because of two major changes that were passed in the 2015 reforms. One of those was creating a new property crime felony, a Class D felony, and persons who commit those felonies must serve their time at the local level. They cannot go to the department's custody. And there was also included in the reform efforts a provision for parole violators and probation violators who would normally go back to state custody. The law was changed in 2015, and those persons now sit in the county jail. And one of the outcomes of that is increased cost for the counties in medical care and lawsuits, which we'll talk about in just a moment. This next slide just shows graphically the black line is the decrease in state inmate population down to a reduction of about 20% from 2014 to 2018. And the red line with the big jump is the inmate population at the county level, going up from about 2,000 inmates to almost 8,000 inmates in 2018. And that is the year for which we have the most recent numbers. Let's look at the details about what this has done at the county level and the cost to the local taxpayers. If we look just first at the cost of operating the county jails, in 2014, statewide, the counties collectively spent about $187 million. For the fiscal year that just ended on September 30, 2019, counties spent $230 million, an increase of $43 million, all of that being paid by the local taxpayers. That's more than 3 times the cost of inflation. And that is, of course, from the county's perspective, something that we are very, very concerned about. This funding is provided by reducing other services That's really the only option that counties have. Let's turn our attention to the operation of the sheriff's department, which is a different budget line item than the operation of the jail. The cost in operating the sheriff's department have gone up by about $50 million, which is 2.5 times the rate of inflation in this same period. Those increased costs come from the Class D felony, all of the probation and parole violators that now stay for months and months at the local level and have to be processed and moved in and out of the county jail. That's increased law enforcement costs dramatically during the last 5 years. There have been no savings to counties from the prison reform of 2015, and quite honestly, no savings to the state either. We've just shifted cost around. Overall, if we look at the operation of the county jails and the operation of law enforcement at the county level together, the increase from 2014 to 2019 has been a dramatic $93 million. Counties continue to have these increases every year. The 93 million is not a cumulative number. That is an annual amount. This year's budget for counties was $93 million more than the budget in fiscal year 2014, 3 times the rate of inflation. Not included in the report is another issue that is very troubling to us, and that's the increase in lawsuits being filed by inmates because the counties are housing more veteran inmates that have spent time in the state system that are now back being housed at the county level. Lawsuits have more than doubled from the county jails from 2014 to 2018, and those lawsuits carry with them significant local cost. We are very, very concerned that very soon counties will have to look at reducing law enforcement costs just to pay for the cost of parole and probation violators and Class D felons that just sit in the county jail, where the taxpayers pay for their medical care, respond to their lawsuits, and provide their housing. So the question is, as the 2020 legislative session begins, what do we do about these issues in the coming days? The association is proposing some reform of the reform from 2015, some things that the association, county officials, and sheriffs believe must be done before we turn our attention to the new troubles that hang over the Department of Corrections and the state of Alabama. The first thing is, we believe the local housing of parole and probation violators must be repealed or dramatically changed so that the Department of Corrections will house these violators properly and efficiently and quickly. Today, those probation and parole violators sit in the county jail waiting for transfer to the Department of Corrections custody through a system that is antiquated and slow. We believe the documentation exchange and transfer system must be modernized, and that in 2020 we can use an electronic system that will shorten the time that these inmates sit in county jails. We believe there must be some leverage used against the state's savings to ensure that prisoners are transferred away from local custody and back to the state's custody. The state of Alabama this year will spend more than $60 per day housing inmates at the Department of Corrections custody, and we believe that dollar amount should be used as motivation for the department to move their inmates back to state custody. The medical care costs must be borne by the state of Alabama for these inmates. Today, the state does not begin to pay for any medical care of any inmate until after they've been tried, convicted, and sentenced to state custody, and the paperwork has made its way to the state. On the parole and probation violators that are in our jails as a result of the 2015 reform, the state of Alabama does not pay a single penny for the medical care cost of those inmates. There are a number of liability issues that must be addressed to reduce lawsuits that are a result of the 2015 reform. And at the same time that counties are asking for these changes to be made, we are very interested in providing assistance to the Department of Corrections. We would like to set up a statewide process to allow counties with extra bed space to make those available to the Department of Corrections for use under a standardized, efficient, and effective process that will work in each county in the state that does have extra beds. That's an ambitious program, but from the county's point of view, we're not ready to move into additional reforms until the unintended consequences that this fiscal year cost counties $93 million. Until those consequences are addressed in an effective way, counties and sheriffs are not ready to move forward with any additional reforms. So what can you do? I encourage you to contact your legislators. I encourage you to pass this video along to others through social media and other avenues so that everyone in the state can be aware that the prison reform legislation in 2015 did in fact reduce the population of inmates in state custody, but at the same time, it has caused the cost in county jails to soar. Thank you for taking a few minutes to listen to our video. You can contact us at the Association of County Commissions of Alabama at our website. It's easy, alabamacounties.org. We encourage you to go there and look at our complete and full report, which is posted on our website. Thanks, and have a great day.